What's up, guys? You're hanging with the hero, and we're going to do a little bit something different today. This is what this channel's for. This is exactly what this channel's for. I have recently gotten into kind of tinkering around with PC parts and building computers, kind of mess with it here and there. I won't say flipping computers as much as it is. I just kind of like to mess with computers and toy and tinker around with them, build them, and then sell them with some cheap parts. And what we're working on today, come here, you, is this dude right here. Pop this cover off here in a minute and get a look. We've got an Intel processor in here, and it's got the stock cooler. And I'll do a little clip here so you can see this thing firing up. It is not the quietest, especially once temperatures kind of rises. We're in the middle of a gaming session or something like that. It gets a little noisy, and I don't like that. So we're gonna do something about it. It doesn't get hot or anything like that, but it just doesn't sound good if I'm gonna sell this. I don't want somebody saying, hey, I think something's wrong with this thing or anything like that. So I made a small investment to help alleviate the noise situation, and it's gonna help with our temperatures as well. So let's see what we got. If I'd have been prepared, I'd have had it all sitting here at the table with me already, but I didn't, so I had to run and get it. So we're just gonna throw on a Thermalright Assassin and see what this thing can do for us in the noise department. Obviously, it's gonna be cooler too. I can just tell you, just from the little amount of knowledge I do have in kind of what these can do for a computer, and not to mention it's a stock cooler versus one with a great big radiator in it. It's gonna have a big old fan on it as well. So no further ado, let's get into it. But real quick, I will show just a little benchmark session here, do a little bit of a gaming session and show the temperatures of this thing before, and then afterwards, let's dive into it. So really quick here, just wanna show how noisy this thing is when you do fire it up. So the sound of it does ramp down a little bit and it gets quieter, but like I said, when temperatures get up after we've been gaming for a little bit, it'll get kind of noisy again, maybe not quite that loud, but honestly, the fan might just be dying a little bit. It's been that way since I got it. It didn't bother me because it was my personal machine for a while, but I've since upgraded. It's time to move on. So we're gonna get that thing out of there after we do our little benchmark here for our temperatures and then get the big dog installed. All right, so getting things started with our little benchmark session here. Yeah, I know there's all kinds of different programs and things you can use, but I'm a gamer. I build these things to play games on mostly, outside of the one that I do my editing on. And I figured dropping at the same spot, playing some Fortnite games, since that is probably the most real-world scenario, would be the best for this. So what I did was turn on OBS and start a screen record just to kind of make the processor sweat a little bit. And then I played this game on basically all maxed out settings. So it wasn't necessarily the smoothest gameplay, and I wanted to do this just to kind of show that I am using the system instead of just doing like a screen record as well. So getting in a couple of kills here, a few drops in the action here. Also wanted to play this for a little bit just to give this thing a good chance to get heat soaked. We're seeing temperatures from like the 77 to 80 degrees Celsius range is where we're seeing a lot of the stuff at with this processor. Basically maxed all the way out when it comes to usage. Fortnite is a very CPU intensive game, is another reason that I chose to do Fortnite instead of some other stuff. So between Fortnite and the OBS doing the full screen record, we really wanted to get this thing working, and we did that here. So now we're going to turn the OBS off and just play some regular gameplay here just to, it's still going to work. And being, like I said, more of a CPU intensive game, this is definitely going to be something that will still give us a good benchmark even with that off. Like I said, I just wanted to try and max it out as much as possible and get the thermals pretty warm as much as I could here. This case has got 6 fans in it, so it's going to be really hard to get it too warm. And this is also about the time that I realized that jetpacks are back in Fortnite. I've been playing on and off a little bit since the new season came out. I've just been really busy. I haven't had a chance to. You see homeboy rolling up on the jetpack here, just sent me into oblivion. And once I died to this, I realized, okay, it's probably time to be done. We got what we needed out of this thing. Let's get to work. And first things first, got to get this glass removed. This is actually a pretty simple process, and I say that being someone that's not super experienced in computers, but I feel like that this is something that, with a little bit of know-how and obviously YouTube tutorials, this would be something that you could do to your system if you wanted to. Say you're still running a stock cooler, or you want to upgrade the current cooler that's on there. All you do is get the glass off, and there's going to be 4 tabs that you need to turn that kind of lock the processor down. Don't forget to unplug it. And then it's going to feel like it's kind of stuck on there, but as long as you've got all 4 of those tabs loosened up, Just give it a little bit of a twist while you're pulling it loose, and the thermal paste should come loose. And it's also easier to get these apart after the thermal paste has been warmed too. So once you get that done, we'll take some rubbing alcohol and a cotton swab or a makeup remover, in this case, thanks babe, and get the thermal paste wiped off of here. It comes off really easy, but I will say this stuff is like dealing with anti-seize. If you work on cars, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You touch one place and it gets everywhere, and there's no stopping it until you get it completely off of you. So make sure you don't get it all over your hands. You know what? After we get all that done, let's flip it over to the back here, get the back case off, and set it aside because we got to get ready for our cooler. We got to get the mounting bracket out. So get our cooler unboxed here. Taking a look at everything that's in there. You got your brackets, you got your fan, and then you're going to have the heatsink itself coming out. And I have installed a handful of these aftermarket coolers, and I will say the one thing that I did enjoy about this one is it's got this sticky adhesive stuff on here to keep this from falling off of there, because sometimes it's kind of a trick you'll see as we go to install it here. It's hard to keep that bracket on the back of this motherboard and then try to put the screws in the front here, as you see. But the sticky stuff at least makes it easier to hold it in place. So you're not trying to like do it with one arm wrapped around. You can use two arms to kind of like set a screw in with a screwdriver if you need to. So I set that on, give it a nice little push down to make sure that adhesive was at least stuck enough that it's going to hold the bracket in place while I get the screws started. Then each processor is going to require different spacers, so be sure and look through the instructions of the cooler that you choose to go with and see which ones you need to use. This particular one required the black spacers, and then there's two sets of screw holes on these brackets as well. There's the inside and the outside ones. I should have did a better job of showing you that. But make sure you get it on the right ones because it will make a difference on how the cooler sits on top of the processor, so make sure you're using the right ones. Again, that'll be stuff that's in your instructions there. So get these brackets set on, and then we will get ready to do the next part of the process. After we get these snug down, always go through and do it a little bit on each side. Once you get them a little bit tight, then kind of go back through and get them all tight to kind of snug the bracket up. You always want to kind of do stuff like that when you're working with stuff that's going to be used with brackets and stuff like that. Don't tighten one spot all the way. Just kind of work the whole thing tight. It's just kind of a general concept thing. You'll kind of see what I'm talking about if you're ever going to install one. We're going to do the thermal paste here. Obviously, you don't want too much and you don't want too little. Honestly, I might have done a little too much here. They always say to go for about the size of a pea, maybe a little bigger. That's a pretty big pea. But I wanted to make sure that I had enough and make sure it wasn't going to overflow. Make sure you take this sticker off as well. I haven't done this, but I've seen where guys say that they forget to take these stickers off and have to go back and take everything apart. And one thing you'll see here as I'm putting this on, I'm kind of wiggling it back and forth. I'm really just kind of smashing that paste down a little bit and getting it spread out. Not that tightening it down evenly won't spread it out, but I always just trying to like to give it a little chance to get to the corners and stuff too. So once we got that tightened down, again, working back and forth just like we did with the bracket to make sure that everything is equally tight, we will be ready to install the fan and plug it in. And the big thing that I do want to talk about here, and I made this mistake one time, is make sure you plug the fan into the right header on the motherboard. There's going to be some system fan stuff, some other headers that you might see on there, but the one you want is a CPU fan, which I did show here, and I made sure that it was plugged in. So once you get that plugged in, you're just going to want to snug your fan up around that comes with the clips provided to get it wrapped around the heatsink there. They'll kind of lock into place. You'll see what I'm talking about. I should have did a better job of kind of demonstrating that so you could see. But with that all squared away, and we'll turn around here and show you what I'm talking about where we pulled it through the back. So it'll be a nice clean install there. There won't be any wires hanging out. And now let's take a listen and see if we have any difference in sound. All right, so we're all hooked up. We're ready to go. It's the moment of truth. We hear nothing. All right, so now that we got that done, let's check out some benchmarks here and see what our temperatures are doing. So I did play for a little while again just to kind of let the case get heat soaked, get plenty of heat into everything, and then we will start our temperature benchmarks here. And thank goodness for bot lobbies. They make this pretty easy to be able to play the gameplay for a while, not be in and out of loading screens or things like that. Got me a pretty good bot lobby here, so I was able to do most of this in one clip once I got the computer good and warmed up. As you see, I get absolutely whacked there, but we'll jump back into it here. And I don't have the OBS running yet. I'm just kind of doing the standard benchmark here with just the game itself playing. And then after we do that for a while, we will jump into OBS and fire it back up just again to max out the processor. And right off the rip, we're basically seeing about 15-degree difference in temperature, 12 to 15 most of the time. I'm going to say 15 just because I like to be optimistic and make it sound like I changed the world making one little change to a computer. But it's kind of cool to see that the Intel cooler did do fine. The one that came with it, was it noisy? Yes. But the big thing here was, like I said, the fact that this was an inexpensive mod that kept this thing almost 15 degrees cooler most of the time, which would give you room to do some overclocking and things like that. I'm not saying you could go crazy with it, but it would give you that option if you needed to. This is a locked processor, doesn't have the ability to be overclocked. But if I wanted to, I could swap it out for like a 4790K or something like that, which is basically the best for this socket, and do some overclocking and could really maximize this thing. This heatsink, it leaves you the ability to have a little bit of wiggle room there. And then once I get done with a little bit of this, just take one of the same gameplay here. I turn on OBS to go ahead and max this thing out some more. So you see the bots have found me and they're shooting at me some more. So I got it maxed out, and even then temperatures are creeping up, but they're not back into the 80 degrees Celsius range that we saw earlier. I think maybe once or twice we saw 67 degrees. Most of the time it's between 63 and 65. So very happy with those results because this cooler cost under $20. And if this is something that you're maybe dealing with some thermal temperatures, if you have a different processor, or you bought a used processor and it didn't come with a cooler, this would be a great option for something to at least get you started. Maybe if you want to do some water cooling later on, you could, or maybe some cool fancy RGBs, or maybe if RGBs aren't your thing, then this Thermalright cooler would be perfect for you. But overall, I consider this to be a mission success. We're running cooler, we're running quieter. How do you lose? Other than against some sweaty kid in Fortnite, which you're about to see me do here, I don't think you do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure and subscribe if you're coming over from the other channel. We'll see what kind of random computer content we come up with next. Catch you then.